man. I mean, we had a great discussion yesterday, and we appreciate everybody's interaction and a lot of people engaging in the topics. One of the big topics was Cool G Rap and him not showing up to the verses. We didn't at the time that we did the live. We didn't have a lot of details. Saw in some of the comment sections that Kane went on live with Swiss and said that Cool G Rap had prior engagements, yada yada. Cool. But yeah, I don't know, man. Some of the comments was like we was disrespecting G Rap or something like that. That wasn't even the case. Go ahead, Coop.
Right. So, first of all, we're doing a podcast and we're giving opinions. When we're speaking about things as they're happening live, and when we're debating things, most of those things are based on what our opinions are.
Right.
Now, now we did not have the information because neither one of us watched the live, like where I guess Kane told Fat Joe that that G Rap had prior engagements,
Yeah,
and
Fat
that's
Joe, not
cool.
Swiss. My bad.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, you're all good.
Yeah.
So, but I want people to understand too, Mike and here are giving us, and I said this a few times yesterday. This is my personal perspective and opinion on it, based on the way that I'm viewing it, and we're going to get into that on the LL side. But nobody's disrespecting G Rap, Mike, and I believe that I said yesterday, I said that he's an MC and a lyricist of the highest order. I said specifically that in terms of wordplay, word usage, and flipping of words, that there is nobody comparable to G Rap.
Definitely, and
I
I
said
think
that
that
yesterday.
yeah, and that was
But
before we brought up Eminem and Pun, right?
right, and about that is the reason that I said that he probably. So let's say he did not have this engagement.
Right.
About the stature of who he is, I still feel like he wouldn't have showed up, because in my mind, G Rap deserves more than a verse on Kane and KRS One's verses, and that's really the part that I was really the thought that I was trying to emanate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, got that. And I think some people in the comments, I don't know if it was the title or if I don't even know if they really watched the video all the way through because, people do that on YouTube too. But
Yeah.
it wasn't one of those things where we wanted to, or was putting out there that somebody had a problem with somebody or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
Nobody has a problem with anybody. These guys are legends. We've seen them in many settings together. We've seen them touring together. I know I made the comment that, that G Rap wasn't touring on that, on that old school hip hop tour that we went to. And, obviously, it could be a business thing, whatever. Maybe that gave an underlining theme that there's a problem, ain't no problems, or anything like that. Obviously, you know what I'm saying? But there is a competitive level when it comes to being an elite MC and being an MC and New York MC. We see that mostly in New York. It's competition, whether you friends
It's
or not. There was still
competition.
competition with Kane and KRS. KRS was out there telling Kane that he ran out of records. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And they're friends. So,
Yeah.
it's all in love of hip hop and competition and sport, man.
And also too, Mike, like not at not at any point during that verses did I expect G Rap to come out, and not
Me either.
because there's any beef, because of the stature of who G Rap is. He's not necessarily part of any group. Most of his stuff is like solo stuff, and for who he is as an MC, he's not the type of MC that you bring out for like a guest appearance on a verses. Like, he's bigger than that and more important than that.
To be honest, man, I didn't even see Master Ace and Craig G coming out to do the symphony. Honestly,
The
that was
the
a
symphony was a surprise in general,
yeah.
truthfully, and a pleasant one.
And maybe because I've seen Kane do this at shows, I just expected Kane to jump out and do his verse.
Now, you want to know what I've heard though, and here's maybe why he did the symphony. I've heard that that the symphony is actually Marley Marl took had got a hold of one of Scott LaRock's beat tapes and took one of the samples that Scott LaRock had and flipped it,
Oh
and that
wow.
was the symphony. That was a story that I heard a long, long time ago, Mike, like when we were teenagers, that Marley Marl actually took that from Scott LaRock and looped it and flipped it into something. So that could be something even more deeper in terms of why Kane played that after the bridge is over.
Right.
Because I was told that like the symphony came actually from like a Scott LaRock scrap heap of beats, like on a tape that Marley got his hands on, and he took the shit and freaked it harder.
You know what? I've never even heard that story, but I think that's a dope story.
Mike, I might have been like 15 or 16 when I heard that story. And that's the first thing I thought of when I actually saw him playing the symphony. I'm like, oh, that's inside stuff.
That's like one of those stories, like when what's his
Or it
name?
could be the other, or Mike, you want to know, it could be the other way around if I'm, it's been 25 years, Mike. You want to know, it could be that the bridge is over with scraps from one of Marley's beats too. It could be the other way around. Like
you,
it's one of them. One of those beats is the scraps from from the other dude's beats because it got something tied into the beef.
you remember that story about LES and Life's a Bitch and that sample?
Yeah, they were supposed to use
It was supposed to be like the Juicy
the
Fruit
rump
sample.
shaker or the juicy. Yeah, it was either
Yeah,
rump shaker or juicy.
I think it was the Rump Shaker sample or whatnot,
Rump
and
shaker
you know he
sample.
left it
Yeah.
at home, and they kind of had to go with what they had. You know, it was like they didn't have time to jump on the train and go all the way back and all that. So yeah,
I mean,
Graham is checked
yearning
in
for
the
your love is
room.
a nice second place sample to pull from. Like, you know what I mean?
Graham just checked in the room. He said a guy on Star said that Scott LaRock's killing wasn't as clear cut. It was made out to be. Now that's some other shit. We're here to talk about music. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that none of us expected Cool G Rap to go out there and spit like that anyway. It was just the way that KRS said what he said on stage. And you know, it was like, you know, I'm like, why was it said like that? And that was pretty much it. But yeah, we get it, man. People got prior engagements. And then business has to line up too when you're talking about something like a versus. And
No, like,
yeah,
but when KRS said it, Mike, he was like really laying claim to him being number one. So he said it in a competitive manner and format.
he did. And that's what it was like, you know, and anytime anybody jumps out on some competitive shit, it's like, oh, like when Jake
Like,
took the stage at
right.
Summer Jam, you know?
So, Mike, so let's kind of transition because this is the era of the lyricists, like in the battle guys, like they test each other and talk to and about each other like this. Like G Rap was sitting somewhere like, yeah, look, I heard KRS, like, you know what I'm saying? Like competitively, like that's how these guys are because that's how they were brought up in this culture as MCs. And with that said, like, can we talk about L now too, since we're like
Yeah, I
cleaning
want to talk
house?
about L because even in
Yeah.
that even in
Uncle
that
L.
announcement, or I guess we could say stanza that KRS put out there, L's name was left out. And I guess the question that I asked yesterday was twofold question. Like, who is the only verses out there, or who are the verses people left for LL? And why wasn't LL mentioned in that, you know, that G Rap, KRS, Rakim, and Kane conversation? Because, you know, again, we can fool ourselves all we want. When people put those Mount Rushmores up and we seen it, I've seen it, you know, working with According to Hip Hop the whole time. No one puts LL's face on those Mount Rushmores. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just asking why. And I think that really it's because lyrically people don't see LL where they see those guys.
But that okay, so when you
But
say
LL's
that,
something different.
but and that's exact. I wasn't about to say different. I was about to say that doesn't mean that LL isn't great and lyrically great in his own right. Like Mike, these guys, those five guys that I personally had ahead of him because I had him six.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of who I would choose from my personal taste, in my opinion, from their music that I've heard. Like, but Mike, like those five guys, like they're top 15 lyrically all time. Easy to me. And
Yeah.
so it's not a slight to L. I keep saying, like, no, I love L. I'm not saying that he's not great. And if you were to tell me that lyrically LL Cool J is even better than Slick Rick, like lyrically, I'd even give you that. So we could even put him in that fifth slot, let's say. But Mike, he's not better than G Rap lyrically. He's not better than Kane or KRS Rakim lyrically. He doesn't all you like that like they do. He doesn't.
I've
He has
never
records. He has records where he alls you like that, but his focus, and here's where you're right about him being different. His focus isn't like theirs lyrically on the craft of MCing. They have whole songs dedicated to Microphone Fiend, I'm Still Number One,
yeah.
Raw. You know what I mean? Like those dudes have songs where they're literally talking about their skill level and how great they are with it. L doesn't necessarily do that. So I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying he hasn't done it to the level and with the focus and with the lyrical capability at those guys. His focuses have been different and there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
that's what I was gonna say. The focuses have been different when it comes to their approach of making records, making hit
Mm-hmm.
songs, making songs for the ladies. You know, Rakim didn't really care about making songs for the ladies like that. I mean, Mahogany's Mahogany, but that
And that's
wasn't
it,
his
Mike.
focus.
Mike, Mahogany's the only record from his like first four albums, I believe, where he's even talking about a female.
Right, right. I mean, again, we have to be honest, and again, I think LL is so different. Where like even if you match him up with, and I know it's two different eras, and LL's accomplishments totally supersede this artist I'm about to mention. But if you talk about somebody like a DMX or Tupac, right, and where they were able to, you know, make people feel things, that wasn't again LL's focus. But when he started, that wasn't what rappers were really doing like that. I mean, I correlated it to the whole 3 point line in basketball. Like Michael Jordan didn't grow up with the 3 point line being important. So he's not going to be the 3 point shooter that Kobe Bryant was. You know what I'm saying? Because that wasn't a focus. And not saying that L couldn't have, you know, in a different era been more focused on other things, but that's one of the things that happens when you come so early. We're going to talk about that too when we talk about this Wu Tang top 10 because I feel the same way about Takao. I think Takao's biggest, I guess, criticism is the fact that in all of the Wu Tang efforts, it just came so early that they weren't as evolved as a collective than as they were moving forward. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the things with L, but his longevity is you can't match that. It's but I do also think if we're being perfectly honest, and I think you said something about this yesterday, as the game has extended, there are other people who have longevity as well, and we have to look at it in context because what Nas is doing right now is unprecedented. So I know that LL came out in '85, and his longevity from '85 to I would say 2004 at that time is just unthinkable.
Right.
But since now, I mean, but at this point, we've had
Different
people
now.
who've done some things that can
Yeah.
correlate to that. You know, Nas dropping in
Yeah.
'94 and dropping King's Disease 2 in 2021 is honestly, it's past that. It is what it is, you know? But, you know, we just have to put everything in context, and there's no disrespect. I mean, as anything evolves and goes on, records are meant to be broken, as they say, right?
Right. So he might be more like Bill Russell like in that regard. Like the league was different when he's played and still considered an all-time great, but maybe not as high up as he used to be because of the awareness about the era that he played in per se or where he came from. But here's another point that I wanted to make. Yesterday when I asked you lyrically where you would have Jay in this from this era, you said you would have him second. I didn't comment, but I went into our comments and I kind of agreed more with some of the comments that got made, which was I would probably have Jay like, and this is what I mean about this is no disrespect to L. Well, Mike, in this era, and you know how much I love Pac. Pac lyrically is not better than those five guys that I put ahead of L yesterday, in my opinion, either, because I was talking lyrically. Mike, I don't think that Jay lyrically is better than Rakim, KRS-One, or Cool G Rap. So I would have him fourth,
Okay.
actually.
I
I would
disagree with you,
probably,
but I
I
see
would,
what you're saying.
Biggie's the only one that, Biggie and Nas are the only ones that I would even potentially have at two or one lyrically from this era, from the next era of great MCs, because
Do you think, hold on, let's rewind that. You think that lyrically, Big was ahead of Jay?
not when Jay first came out, but by the time whatever,
So
like
you think
I told
Jay
you. Well, here,
decreased lyrically?
see, that's the thing. I always thought Jay was slightly better lyrically, but the shit that Big did on Life After Death is just like lyrically, like more inclined. And so if you go listen to what Big's doing on Life After Death in '97, and what Jay's doing on In My Lifetime in '97, what do you think is better? Because
Well,
after
clearly
that,
Big
everything
made
from Jay
better
is dumbed
music.
down.
Yeah, clearly Big made better music, and I guess I'm leaning more so on Reasonable Doubt because I think
Yeah,
lyrically I
okay.
would
So
put
if you want to
Reasonable
talk
Doubt.
lyrically, how about this, Mike? I've always people used to think that I was crazy when I said that lyrically, Reasonable Doubt's better than Ready to Die.
I think so. But
Yeah,
I
it
agree with
is.
you. Like, this is the thing. Because, again, I don't want people to get shit twisted. I think that Ready to Die is probably the better album. They're very close. Ready to
Slightly,
Die is probably the better album
slightly,
just because of the grit, right? And just where it's
slightly.
coming from.
Yes,
But
yes.
Big is clearly the better lyricist on Life After Death.
He's
So I do,
rocking Nas type lyrically great. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
So,
and it's
so
effortless too. I mean, you could
it's
tell that
it's
that Ready
stunning.
to Die was made in different time periods, right? Like you could tell that there was a lapse. You could tell the Uptown records, and you could tell the Bad Boy records
Ready to
in
Die
Biggie's
has a
voice.
classic feel that very few like rap albums have.
Right, exactly. It has a feel.
It has a
It's
feel.
different in that way.
You feel where Big's coming from.
But lyrically, though, I see what you're saying. You're comparing the Life After Death Big. This is the thing with
See,
Jay.
that's the thing. Life After Death, Big lyrically is to me better than Jay on Reasonable Doubt and Volume One. And if you go look at the stuff like the Get Money remix, the Victory off No Way Out, it's like it's hard for me to say in clear conscience because Jay dumbed it down a little bit after that point, going into Volume Two and thereon. Because here's the thing, Mike, the Blueprint is a classic, but it's not like some lyrical masterpiece now, is it? You don't consider
No,
it to
it's
be a
not.
lyrical masterpiece, do
No, it's
you?
not. And I honestly feel like, and this is gonna sound crazy, I feel like on the Blueprint 2, he actually was rhyming better than he was on the Blueprint 1. The Blueprint 1 just has so much, better songs.
Better
The
songs.
Black album, he's
I,
out rapping both albums.
I'm about to say, lyrically, his best albums to me are actually Reasonable Doubt, Volume 1, and then the Black Album,
Somebody's
lyrically
asking a really
speaking.
good question in here. Big Knock from Chi-Town said, I have a question. Who's the better storyteller between Big and Slick Rick?
Okay, so,
We're about to get off course real quick.
I mean, so my favorite five storytellers, the five greatest storytellers to me are Nas, Big, Slick Rick, Scarface, and Ghostface.
That's crazy. I have the same five, probably in different orders. I got Scarface number one in that. I got Ghostface number two in that. I got Nas number three in that. I got Big number four in that, and I got Slick Rick number five in that.
So here's the thing that I'll say about Nas and why I have Nas number one. And Death Row East is more credence to it because it's another classic story. Nas literally has a classic album worth of classic stories.
No, no, that's real. And you know what? Those top three can go in any order.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
don't. I think I have Ghost and Scarface ahead of Nas just simply off of feeling and how they're
Okay,
able
so
to make you feel. Now
the
Nas is the most
feel.
detailed storyteller of all of them.
So I would agree with you on that. Like the stuff that Face gives you when he telling you a story and the feeling is different, and Ghost is so animated and entertaining, it's going to hit you different. But that's what I'm speaking to. They haven't done as many of those. Like after you were to go through about 5 or 6 or 7 joints, you're going to find yourself kind of like reaching, and then Nas is going to keep on extending himself with his stories because he's got Blaze of 50 to pull out. He's got Rewind to pull out. You get what I'm saying?
He's
Now he
got a
got
big
Death Row
catalog.
East to pull out. You
Yeah,
get
he's
what I'm
got a
saying? He
big
got the
catalog.
setup to pull out, Mike. He got a lot of stuff to pull out, just story wise from what he's done.
Damian Frederick said something I want to get corrected. He said that I disagree. I think lyrically, Reasonable Doubt was lyrically better than Ready to Die. That's what we said. We said
He
that,
said that.
yeah, we
It's not
think
better than
that
Life After Death,
Life
though.
After Death is probably lyrically better than Reasonable Doubt. Just on but see, I don't know. I would have to think about that. I understand what you're saying on a versatility level, but I
It's
think
too,
Reasonable
it's
Doubt lyrically is Jay at his best. And I don't think that he fell off from that. I think he just consciously made an effort to change that. So I don't know if that makes him drop off as a top notch lyricist either. You know what I'm saying? That's my only
I didn't
thing
say
with.
it wasn't top notch. his drop off is like him dumbing it down is still better lyrically than 90% of what you're gonna get.
All right, so those people that you mentioned that you got ahead of Jay, let's take it album wise. Do they have an album that you would say is lyrically better than Reasonable Doubt? I think the only ones that I could say yes for is Rakim.
Okay, so if you're basing it on that context, yes, but you're only basing it on one album, and that would be the problem.
But he is the author of that album.
No, yeah, but it's like, okay, so let's go to KRS right quick. Lyrically, he's got Criminal Minded, By Any Means Necessary, Return of the Boom Bap, KRS-One, The Blueprint. He's got 5 albums that are lyrically strong, like at a high level.
Okay. Well, you know, let's put all this in,
like Mike,
put all this in context.
Even when you hear Kool G rap, like in '95 on 456, the point is like to spit. Like It's a Shame is like a rapping course. Like dudes can't rap like that except for like him and Kane.
I think Jay-Z's strongest albums lyrically, I'm gonna say, are Reasonable Doubt. Interesting enough, no particular order. Volume 1. I think The Blueprint is lyrically strong in no particular order again. The Black Album, The Blueprint 2, American Gangster. Some of those other records, he was kind of coasting. I think Volume 2, he's very skilled. Volume 2, really, if you want to talk about his skill set and how he approached it, is very life after death like. You know what I'm saying? Like, he understood that I might need to slow a couple things down. I might need to simplify a couple of things to make better records. You know what I mean?
See, no, Volume 1 was him trying to do that. Volume 2 was him executing it.
That's what I'm saying. Volume 1 was him he was trying to find that what's beef and more money, more problems balance.
Right, he was trying to find the balance. Yeah. Right.
And the hardcore stuff was just so much better than the I Know What Girls Like and all that. So, yeah.
No, same thing with Nas on I Am. Like, you know, trying to balance Dr. Knockboot and Dr. Knockboot and Nas is like. It's like, nah, fam, do Nas is like.
And see, again, I think that LL is such in a different category. Like, what would you say is LL's most lyrical album? Bad?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, this is more about making songs. Because, I mean, even the doo-wop. You know, him telling a story and, you know what I'm saying, approaching it in that way, like one long verse. Or, damn, I mentioned it last show. It's on Bad as well. This is going to bother me. The, shit. It's Right Before I Need Love.
It's been so long since I listened to Bad, Mike. You're going to have to pull it up.
Great album. And
it's a great album. It's one of hip-hop's first real, like, true classic albums.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the chat help me out. Y'all know it's The Breakthrough. I ain't even have to look it up.
Oh, anyway, The Breakthrough, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, you got songs like The Doo-Wop, The Breakthrough, and L didn't continue to do, you know, those things, like, on a high level. It was more about making songs, like you said. It's more about approach. I think LL obviously has his space in hip-hop's greats, but it's very hard to really place L at this point as the game has continued to evolve, as people's careers have continued to extend, and people can say what they want, but when they're out there putting these Mount Rushmores together, you're not putting L on there, and I don't know whose fault that is. I think LL's story just hasn't been told the way that it needs to, but when we break his career down, he does a lot of things that nobody has done, but at the same time, he still gets underappreciated for it, and it's like, why? And where do you place L? I have no idea. Hold on.
Do you think L's a top 20 MC?
He has to be.
Then how is he underrated? I mean, isn't that?
I think that I think a lot of people feel like LL, the GOAT, should be considered top 5 or top 10. And I think that anything other than that is seen as disrespectful. It's kind of like when we had the Run DMC conversation. I remember that it used to be a time where if Run DMC is not top 3, it's disrespectful. You know what I mean?
We're just not in that time anymore. We're not in that place, in that space. And it's like we just have to stack L's catalog up, honestly, because truthfully where he suffers the most is catalog in reference to being the greatest of all time. So let's say this. He has a better catalog than Slick Rick in G-Rap and Kane, correct?
Yeah.
Does he have a better catalog than KRS?
See, that's why I wanted to see that versus, because a lot of people would say yes, a lot of people would say no. See, I know.
No, Mike.
Listen. I
No,
feel you.
Mike.
The only
Like
the
KRS's
see,
first two rap albums are classics. We don't even know if L has two classics.
cool. I feel you. I feel you, and that's why
And a
I
lot of
want.
people feel Return of the Boom Bap and the KRS-One album are classics too, Mike. A lot of people feel like The Blueprint is a classic. Like KRS got 5 potential classics floating around. Nobody talks about L's catalog that way.
Listen, I'm not arguing with you. I'm with you, man. I'm
Nobody
with you.
talks about L having
That's
5
why I
potential
wanted.
classic albums.
That's why I wanted to see that on stage, and we missed that opportunity because that would have been something that I think that we could have actually had some sort of gauge of something from. We already knew KRS's catalog was just way longer than Kane's. You know what I'm saying? Like, we needed, if we were going to do somebody from the 80s, KRS and LL should have been the ones.
Mike,
Rakim and Kane should have been the ones.
Mike, KRS-One catalog is longer than Rakim's. It's just not better at the top end. Like KRS-One's best songs aren't better than Rakim's best song. KRS-One's overall catalog is stronger than Rakim's. Like if you want to go like 100 songs deep.